Have you ever experienced that eerie feeling that someone or something was watching you? That an inanimate object had in actuality come alive? In a museum in Key West, Florida, many have not only experienced that feeling but have also witnessed it when viewing one of the most haunted objects in the world. The museum is home to a doll named Robert. Robert appears to be an innocent child's toy from a bygone age. However, the doll's childlike appearance seems to mask something dark and mysterious. Once a child's plaything, Robert is now believed by many to be haunted and is often held responsible for tragedies that befall those who disrespect him. Find out more about Robert in this video. Robert the doll was originally owned by the Otto family, specifically a little boy named Robert Gene Otto. It was a birthday gift from his grandfather, who bought it on a trip to Germany. He decided to name the doll Robert after himself and preferred to call himself Gene. Gene was fascinated by the doll, and it was a treasured possession and a constant companion to the little boy. At first, Robert seemed like an ordinary doll, but according to legend, strange things started happening to the Otto household. The first hint that something out of the ordinary was happening was one night when Gene, who was only 10 years old, awoke to find Robert the doll sitting at the end of his bed, staring at him. Gene's parents, Thomas and Minnie, would often hear their son talking to the doll. It seemed normal until one day when they heard a deep voice answering back. When they opened the door, they saw Gene alone in his room. As time passed, more sinister things started happening in the house. One night, they heard Gene scream. When they went upstairs and opened the door, they found Gene curled up with fear on his bed, his room in shambles, and Robert sitting at the foot of his bed. They would find objects around the house changing positions and Gene's other toys being mutilated. Anytime anything strange happened in the house, Gene would blame it on Robert. The parents reported seeing the doll speak and his expressions change. Giggling and sightings of Robert running up the steps or staring out the upstairs window were also reported. Gene began to blame Robert for mishaps that would occur around the house. Thomas and Minnie eventually put the doll in the attic. There are a few different accounts of the origin of Robert. Some people believed that it was a voodoo doll given to the family by their servant as an act of revenge against the Ottos for mistreating her. Robert was said to be made of human hair and stuffed with straw. After some digging, Robert's origins were traced to the Steiff Company, the same toy maker that first manufactured a teddy bear in honor of Theodore Roosevelt. In any case, Gene loved his doll. He even dressed the doll in his own sailor costume, which remains on the doll even today. Could the story of Robert being a voodoo doll be true? The Otto family employed two servants from the West Indies, William and Emmeline Abbott. The Abbotts were a married couple who worked for the Ottos for many years. There have been rumors of Emmeline Abbott having an affair with Gene's father, Thomas. Information obtained from several documents is cause to suspect that Thomas may have been unfaithful. According to Minnie Otto's journal, her husband received a lot of attention from women and that women in the community resented her because she wasn't from a wealthy background. After her husband's death, Minnie also did not want to be buried in the family plot. Emmeline tried to file a lawsuit against the Ottos after Thomas's death, but there is no substantial evidence to prove that Emmeline Abbott and Thomas Otto had an affair. Between 1900 and 1910, Emmeline Abbott was pregnant and lost a child. Another bit of interesting information is that a few people said that they have seen the spirit that haunts Robert, described as a mulatto or a light-skinned black child. When Gene moved out of their home for college, Robert was left up in the attic. Gene studied art and got married to a woman named Annette Parker. Gene and Robert were separated for around 27 years. After Gene's parents died, he moved back into their family home with his wife. The home is now known as the Artist House. Once he settled back with Annette in the home, he was reunited with Robert. The adult Gene was constantly accompanied by Robert, much to the distaste of his wife, who is said to have loathed the doll. She put Robert in the attic, but Gene told her that Robert was angry and demanded a room with a view. Despite Anne's objections, Gene moved Robert out of the attic and placed him in the turret room. Robert was seated near the window. Neighbors and people who passed by claimed to see Robert move about from window to window. The citizens of Key West heard about Robert and his evil doings. Many people walking by the home reported that the doll watched from the turret room and mocked them as they passed. School children feared walking by the Otto home in fear of Robert's mean glare. The Ottos themselves claimed to hear the doll giggle and swear that they caught glimpses of the doll running around the house. A plumber working alone in the turret room once fled the house in terror after he heard Robert giggling. Gene Otto passed away on June 24, 1974. It was determined that his death was caused by Parkinson's disease. It was reported that in the months leading up to his death, Gene spent most of his time in the attic talking to Robert. After Gene's death, Annette was sane enough to get out quickly and leave Robert behind in the house. A woman named Myrtle Reuter purchased the Otto home in 1974. The new family who took over the old Otto house had a 10-year-old daughter, and the girl started having horrific nightmares and had become convinced that the doll was trying to kill her. In 1994, Myrtle donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum, claiming he moved around the house on his own and was haunted. Myrtle died less than 3 months later. After Robert arrived at the museum, paranormal activity decreased at the artist house and increased at the museum. According to legend, the doll has supernatural abilities that allow it to move, change its facial expressions, and make giggling sounds. There are theories that there is a portal within Robert. Taking a picture of the doll without asking his permission is one of the things that causes people to be cursed. Those who visit Robert are warned about photographing him. Visitors are advised to be polite and introduce themselves, never take photos or videos of Robert without asking his permission, and to never question Robert's power or mock him. Robert is now displayed in a new display case which was donated by someone who's a fan of Robert. He's considered to be one of the most haunted objects in the world and is an extremely popular tourist attraction. Museum staff claim that they keep finding him in different positions, cameras break in his presence, footsteps are heard around the museum in the night, and his expression is known to change in a way that can chill the blood. Robert regularly receives letters from those who have visited him but disrespected him and broken his set of rules. Many of those letters describe the misfortunes they've had since visiting Robert and beg him to lift his curse. Many people visit Robert as skeptics and leave convinced that there is something to the story. But how much of the story is real? Could it be that a family chose to blame the disturbed behavior of their son on a doll to hide some sort of mental illness? The idea of the curse has been reinforced for nearly 100 years now, and strange things do happen around Robert. Either way, it is just better to politely ask Robert for permission to take his photos, just to be on the safe side. Thank you for watching the video. If you found the video interesting, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more such content.